All right. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I welcome back Coach Arthurs. He was here before. He's the defense coordinator at Naperville North High School up here in the suburbs of Illinois. Coach, thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Steve, for having me.
Um, Coach was one of the OG guests on the podcast, I think, a long, long time ago. I think it was during COVID, actually. I couldn't remember. I think it might have been.
It
He
was,
walked
your
away.
early days, I remember.
That's when I was like, I need to talk football. So let me start this because we were all losing our minds. And Uh, my beard was longer back then, I think, because it was just staying home. Um,
Yeah,
but let's you were on here before, so we know your background. You went to SIU and all that good stuff. So always defensive side of the ball. So how did the season go for you guys this year? I couldn't keep up with the DVC like I used to, being at Addison Trail, right down the road. But how'd your guys' season go this year for you? Especially after that crazy COVID year we had where everything blended together, where spring ball, summer, right back into the season, then right back into another one.
yeah. This past year we were 7-3, finished in second in the conference. Had a great year. Finished. We lost in the first round to Marist Catholic, who was a really, really good team. Whose only three losses came from the two state champions and the other semifinal team. So we caught them in the first round, and they were really good. But overall, it was a great season. We had a great senior class. Had a great win. Week 9, we had to take on Naperville Central on a Thursday night game to get ready for playoffs, which was the second time we played them that year or this last year in the season. Started with Homewood Flossmoor, who was a new opponent for us, and we've kind of developed a relationship with that conference where we're going to continue playing some of those schools over the course of the next few seasons. Then we took on Orchard Lake, Michigan, from up in Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, which is a preparatory academy up there. It's a great school. My previous, when I was a defensive assistant and we Warmville South, we actually went to their facility and played there, and it's an unbelievable school.
Hmm.
Beautiful. It's a prep academy, and we took them on week 3 on a Saturday game this year. Came out with a nice win, and they ended up being pretty good. They kind of struggled in the regular season, but their playoff system's different, where like you only have to win a certain percentage of your games to qualify. So I think they
Huh.
finished like below 500 in the regular season, but then won like one, two, or maybe even 3 playoff games and ended up pretty good. So that was a good win for us. And then, we had a good run. We won, what was it, 3 in a row. We won 3 in a row at the end to go into playoffs. And then, like I said, we caught a really good Marist Catholic team who, you know, we'll be ready for the next time we take on one of those guys. But they were pretty good. It's always a great conference, great football, but great season for us.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Only two public schools, one state this year, but that's here or there. It's whatever in Illinois. But um, I got to watch film on Marist for Glenbard West. They were big. Those were some big boys. But yeah, that's a tough team to play. But yeah, it's crazy. I haven't talked to you since. Well, we coached track. Saw you in track, but like I keep thinking we're in 2021 still. So sometimes I might reflect back. It's crazy we're in 2022 because, like I said, that year blended together. Where I remember calling football plays during basketball practice in the summer because it blended so much together. Um, Now, the last time I talked to you, we talked about the 4-2-5 defense and stuff. And one of my questions is I know people went to the 4-2-5 more for like the spread teams, how you're going to combat spread teams and everything. I don't know about the DVC or teams you guys are still playing. Do you still see the spread? Do you still feel like 4-2-5 and then start to sprinkle in something else? Because for me, everybody's going to a 3-3. Like everybody's going to that 3-3-3-5. So the 4-2-5, will you like sprinkle in other things to combat other things? Are offensives changing on you all of a sudden where maybe they're not so much spread anymore? It's 11 personnel, 12 personnel coming back. Do
Oh
you think
yeah,
you have to switch that up?
we definitely see base 11. We saw a lot more 20, 21, bigger personnel sets, probably last couple years. So that 4-2-5 were pretty good. We do have a 3-4-30 package that we ran. The team we played for Michigan, Orchard Lake, they threw the ball like 95% of the time. Like they very rarely
Ooh,
ran the ball. They were a big and interesting story about them. They had their head coach who was there for a legendary time, super successful up in that area, was a power eye wishbone run the ball, and then their new staff came in and they completely changed it into spread throw the ball every play. So I had come from my previous experience when I coached against them, and it was pound the ball, pound the ball, pound
right,
the ball.
right.
And we're like, and it's crazy. Like we're getting ready for this team, and we knew that on their schedule. I'm talking to our head coach John Drendel, and I'm like, hey, this is what they did. I'll be curious to see what they do. And he was like, I think they're going to switch to spread. Their head coach was a All American high school kid that played quarterback at University of Michigan. So I think he wants to implement his system, which they did a great job with. So we do have a 30 package that we run. We ran it against Marist. Sometimes we ran against Orchard Lake. We ran against other teams. Then we played a lot more of that 2 years ago. This year, we had a lot more experience at our linebacker core. And I think when you have that and you have a
Mhm.
bigger, stronger front up front, you can play more of that 4-2-5, that 4-3, where you have positions for guys to defend a lot of different things. And yeah, so we run a couple different packages from our 30 front. We're looking to get more into some 5-man rush fronts next year, some fire zone coverages from it. Um, we don't we don't bring a ton into a game plan as far as like a lot of new things. We'll definitely try to bring one new thing to combat what a team's doing each week. Um, but yeah, our kids are super coachable, super knowledgeable, and that's part of the reason why we like basing on that 4-2-5 front. We want to be able to stop whatever teams line up and try to do against us, as instead of trying to have to gimmick and gadget them. We want to be able to line up, play fast, diagnose, run to the ball, see what's in front of us, and be super prepared for whatever anybody's going to throw at us.
Because that's what I was going to lead into. Because you're a defensive guy, I'm an offensive guy. As offensive guys, we like to we say we have a base, but then we see something and we're like, well, this fits into our offense. We want to put it in there. We might go in and say, well, this defense is doing this, so we have to put in this play to do this or combat this. Um, so like for game plan, like you said, like if you see a team do something completely different than you saw the week before, are you making huge overall changes? Or are you just saying, you know what, we're going to change alignment? We might change what you're reading instead. Like how much change goes? Let's say you see an I formation team one week, then a complete spread. Like, is there a huge overhaul change, or is it just more of we're just going to
from the
change one
same
thing?
from the same team from an eye to a spread from week to
Yes.
week, or
Yes.
uh, it really comes down to percentages, right? Like what does a team do best, and you have to game plan for that first and foremost. What are they going to do best? If they've got a good powerful running back and a good offensive line, and we've seen some spread, we're gonna be ready to stop the run and be ready to get down dirty in the line of scrimmage, because we know that they've got a good running back, and they can pound the ball at the offensive line. But we also know we have to be prepared. And one of the things that's really helped us this past season is we started using some formation and personnel groupings that helped us recognize, what's on the field and what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just got done. We had a 1 night winter youth camp, and I was teaching. We were working with some young kids on stuff like this, and just keeping it really basic with understanding what teams come out in and what they can do, and then week to week knowing who our opponent is and what we think they're going to do with their best players is obviously the priority coming into the week.
Yeah, because I'm friends with Nick Davis. He's now the head coach at Ottawa University. He was the DC at Rose Holman. He talks to me about like he coached offense for like a year or two in college, and he said, you know what I've learned, defense, I can have the same play call 5 times in a row, but if I tag something to make them line up different and it's the same call 5 times in a row, it looks different to offenses. It's almost like you're out formationing the offense with your defense. Do you find defenses are starting to lean more towards that kind of, because offenses are just, we're crazy, we're RPOing, we're doing this. If you just put a guy in one spot, it takes it away. It could be a coverage not meant to take away anything, but if you line up somebody there, it takes it away. Do you think defenses are kind of leaning more towards that? Like, we're going to move around, but I can call the same thing 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row.
Yeah, an example is we ran a lot of, single high cover three look last year, and we would use a different guy as that roll down safety. When we were playing Marist, they had a really good passing attack. So we took Luke Williams, who's our stud safety, and we rolled him down and then moved our big, our heavy hitter all conference, who primarily played stud safety, strong safety for us as that middle third guy. But we made him more of a run fit middle of the or alley safety. And then our, Luke, we were like, hey man, like you got anything short, curl, you're the pass guy. And then other weeks, we would take the heavy hitter guy and we put him as the roll down guy, put Luke as the deep third guy to rob the pass. So yeah, definitely it's all about your players, corners, who's the better matchup. Where are you going to put guys, with your corners, your best corner? Are you going to put him on the best guy all the time? Or are you going to put him where they throw the ball most? Things like that dictate your game plan and dictate how you're going to defend certain teams and try it. Defense is all about taking away their best things. Like that's just the priority always, and that's what you got to be able to do. And like you said, you don't want to have a million different calls going into a week trying to practice that. Like that just makes it confusing, and kids aren't playing fast. So if you can make small tweaks in cover three and make it look like one thing, and put another guy in that position and tell him to do another thing, it makes it easy. It makes it easy for the kids to play fast.
Right, because our school kind of ran a 4-2-5, and it was the same thing of. But here was the great debate of this defense that us often like we'd have in the staff room. We're actually a 4-4 team because we're not really having outside safeties. That was the great debate of we're not a 4-2-5 team, we're a 4-4 team, or we're a 4-3 team. Is there really a difference in those defenses? Because that was the great debate of, or the best was, well, we're going to be in a 3-4, but that outside guy always blitzes. And I'm like, well, you're still in a 4-3 then. It doesn't matter. He's not dropping back. It's just a stand-up defensive end. Have you seen those debates? It's almost like wing T debates with air raid. I've seen these debates where it's like it's not a 4-2-5, you're a 4-4, you're a 4-3. Does it really matter at the end of the day?
Seriously, and like when we're game planning as far as the staff goes, and we played a couple of odd front teams this year, and they had looks that they ran against certain formations, what they wanted to do, and I was like, guys, when they bring this guy and they move here. It's just an overfront. So tell your guys, if you want to run this play, block it like an overfront. If they come this way or they're showing this look, it's an under. Block it like an under. It might not look like it pre-snap, but that's the way they're getting, and those rules can apply if you know that that's what they're going to do. So, yeah, I mean, it's all namesake and just trying to make it simple and easy for the kids.
It is our off. Well, it's more your off season than mine because I coach basketball, so I'm not really like in my off season, but I still research things. For you, who would you like reach out to or go watch or try to see to learn more about defense for you guys? Like what, because we always find something during the off season. So like when you're looking at like, I want to go listen to this coach or watch this team or teams and try to take something from them.
That team behind you, U of I, your Illini, have been playing. They played pretty good. They played pretty good defense this past season, and we're fortunate that we have a player for us going there who's actually going to be enrolling in about a week at their school. So, we're gonna. I know I've talked to our head coach, and he's trying to set something up where we can learn some stuff from their staff this off season. Obviously Northwestern with Aiden Gray going there next year, and my family connection. Coach Fitzgerald's always been super welcoming anytime we want to talk defense, anytime we want to come up there and meet with their staff. We went to a practice as well the week before they played their last game of the season, and we're able to watch some stuff. And, just social media. It's unbelievable the resources that are out there. I've tried to come up with ways to categorize things to share with our staff as far as, hey, this is good resource if you want to look at this. Handing off fundamental assignments, position assignments, technique assignments to those guys, while we try to look for little tweaks here and there that we want to implement based on things that we saw last year, we want to do a little bit better.
Yeah, you may have to go to Purdue now to look at Illinois' defense with Walters leaving, but
yeah.
That'd be a good place to go watch defense. Northwestern's great too. That practice, we watched them play. I know they had a rough year, but what they do on defense is great. Like I got to watch the O line, but watch their defense is great. Um, so with your 4-2-5 and how you play everything, do you play it? I might have asked you this the first time. Do you play where it's kind of like the TCU thing where your D line and your two inside backers get one call, then you wait a little bit, and then the rest of them get a call to where you can mess around with because you don't want to mess up the stunts and then what everybody else has to do. Like you want this to happen up front. Do you kind of get two different calls going on, or does everybody just get one call and
So
everybody knows?
So we'll do it both ways. We actually use the term married and divorced as far as like, hey, sometimes the nickel or our Sam's going to be married into the call and the alignment, and then sometimes he's going to be divorced where he's going to be attached to the coverage assignment. So we use those terms as far as the strength calls and the two ways we want to call it. So we do it both ways using that terminology, which has helped us out of our base look, our base coverages. We're going to have everybody kind of on the same page with the same look, just to make things super easy. If it was a day one alignment, day one assignment type thing, it would be all the same. And then different coverages will, like I said, those matchups will take different guys and put them in different spots. A lot of our two high stuff, we like to move our nickel out and attach him to the coverage as opposed to having him married to the front call. So it just depends on the coverage call that we're trying to run. A lot of our man stuff will do formation based if they're going to be attached or if they're going to be divorced. So it just depends on what coverage we're running and what we're trying to do behind it.
Yeah, when I was at Charleston, we did that. It was like TCU based. That playbook everybody has. So D line linebackers all the time got one call, and then we wait, and then somebody else signals in something for them, and it was cool because you want some, the D line all they care about is the stunt call. They don't care about what's happening behind them. So it was really nice for them. The two inside backers, their only jobs were blitzing and hook curls. So for that, it was like that's all you guys have to worry about at the time. Then everybody else kind of did their own thing. But then I meet other coaches where it's all one play call. So somebody signaling everything at one time. And it got confusing because of what you're, like you said, what you're trying to do. Like if it's a trips call and you need them to get into a certain coverage, if it's a 2x2, it's pretty easy. You're only going to do so much. So it kept it real. You could keep it simple or you make it real complex. And that coach liked to make it complex, but I digress. Everything was complex. But that was the small town life. Um, and I might have asked you this too, and it depends on what players you have, but like in your perfect world, when you're going into the summer, into the season, what's the first things you work on? And I know it depends on players. I know it depends on what we have. Like, do you want to, like, you have to know man because that's what I want to do. Maybe it's cover three. Maybe it's, whatever it is. Like, what would be like your first ideal thing you would like to do moving into the season?
When we start the season, we like to start with man. We think that that's the easiest way to get kids lined up. There's no splitting the difference. There's not as many landmarks associated with it. So man coverage really helps us identify easily where we need to line up, and then we can build the coverage from there. So, like we have our man two high look, and we have our cover zero look out of that same type of two high structure. So our kids know, hey, when we're playing cover two or cover four, we know that this is where we should line up by knowing, who's the man that we're doing what we're doing to based on the coverage. Um, so we like to start with man early. We don't practice a lot until the end of July. That's kind of when we heat things up as far as full team practice scrimmages. So we do 7-on-7 passing league stuff. We do, speed and lifting all the way throughout. But that just helps us be pretty sound with our alignments, is learning that man stuff first, working that technique. And plus you find out really quick if you're going to be able to be a man team if you run it fast. So that's helped us.
I never thought of that because I think we always let's do cover two first, or like figure out who we are and then sprinkle in man. Because I know for me, when I used to coach defense, I was scared to death to do man because, like you said, like you do man and that kid can't do it, but you're going to have to do it at some point. It scared me to death. I liked help over the top because my offensive mind would click in and be like, well, I need a bailout. I need something to bail me out. So I always like help over the top with that. So with doing man first, how do you guys teach that to your entire linebacking core and safeties? like their positioning? Do you make them get into a certain position, or do you find more comfortable for the kids? Like, okay, you can line up like this, or how you punch and push and all that stuff, especially in 7-on-7.
We teach our catch man, our bounce stab technique. That's our base man coverage technique that we use. We also have a press call where if we want to press a guy, we'll play up tight on him. We have an off call that will play off pre-snap and off as ball snap, post snap. So we have four different kind of man coverage techniques that we'll employ into the same coverage. But we always start with our bounce stab catch man. We find that that's the easiest way to get us lined up correctly, easiest way to teach us with our eyes how to play a man, and puts us in a good position to defend most routes, in breaking routes, out breaking routes, vertical pass. We found that that's the simplest, most effective day one implementation technique wise.
You're not bouncing up and down like Lombard West, right? I hope not.
I saw the tape you saw too of Lombard West and them, and not as aggressive, not as aggressive as those guys do. But I mean, we do employ it's a in place bounce, stab with the outside arm to the inside shoulder, thumb up, catch man technique, and I mean we do that with all of our back end guys, corners, safeties, linebackers. Everybody works that technique. It's across the board.
Yeah, coaching against them for 3 years. No, it's okay. They do a great job over there, so I'm not making fun of them. It was just when you watch film and you see them bouncing up and down, you're like, oh, okay, they're ready to go. That's a small Illinois joke to people if they know who Lombard West is. Powerhouse over there in our conference. What's the most? Well, let's do this. Do you see offenses making a full circle back around? Like you in the DVC, you're going to see 11, 12 personnel. What we're starting to see, at least in this conference over here, is it's coming backwards where you're seeing buck sweep. It's coming back where you're seeing, the orbit motion, triple option stuff. Do you think that football is coming back full circle offensively? And then do you think that's because you defensive guys become really, really smart and stopping things? So it's like we have to come back full circle and do these things. Like, do you see those things coming back? And is that causing any issues? Not issues, but like, oh my God, now they're doing buck sweep. We used to stop inside zone. Now we got to stop buck sweep. We got to stop outside stuff. Like, do you see that coming back like full circle when we all played football back in the day?
We don't see a ton of it. I mean, we do. I mean, there is definitely a presence of teams know they got to be able to run the ball. And I think that, running ball is a more effective offense if you're trying to keep the game going and keep the game in a position to win, especially if you don't have a good quarterback. If your quarterback is not the best passer. As everybody says, if you're a defensive guy, if you've got a quarterback that can run the ball, it's tough to defend. It's an extra hat in the box. So I think teams like to implement that spread with the quarterback run game. We saw a ton of the last couple of weeks of the season. We saw a ton of different empty formations that were all runs. I mean, and you go back 5 years, you think empty, it's going to be throw the ball, right. Throw the ball. Right. And I mean, it was empty and it was different looks from it. And it was, quarterback counter, jet sweep, all those different looks that come from condensed formations now into the spread formations with nobody in the backfield. So I think that's teams trying to implement the spatial separation with offenses into, the mentality of we're going to try to pound the ball and run the ball and be effective with it.
Yeah, we're seeing tight end and wing on the same side coming back, at least in the West Suburban on our side. The other side, York and all them, they're going to do what they do. But like Morton does that and Willowbrook does pin and pull stuff and the buck sweep's coming back. I know Hinsdale Central does different things. But like talking to other defensive guys are like, yeah, we're seeing triple option. We're starting to see rocket toss come back from a spread look, pistol look. And now we have to adjust because we've gotten so good at stopping the spread. Now we have to come back to stopping this. And that's where 4-2-5, I think, personally got big because of the spread. And then now people are going to a 3-3 And then now offenses are saying, well, if you're going to do a 3-3, we're going to go up the middle or do a thing to get to the outside. Do you think that's why maybe the 4-2-5 fits better? Because I personally think a 4-2-5, you can line up against any type of offense because you have the guys.
Yeah.
Do you think personally that's why it's like the perfect defense to figure that out, like how to set up to stop all these offenses coming back from 1995? Coming
I
back.
do, and it takes players. It takes players, and thankfully we've had some really good players over the last couple of years. On all, our fronts really improved. Our D line coach has done a great job, and our line has done a great job improving our D line. We've been blessed with some experienced linebackers the last couple of years. We had a 2-year all conference kid who was a Mike backer for us. And as you know, when you've got a guy like that, he's going to he's going to be able to get people lined up and he's going to be able to make plays and make tackles. And that's been effective. And that's definitely helped the defense run efficiently. So having good players has helped us. And, surprisingly, we saw like a ton of like tight sets, nub sets. That was kind of the look that we saw a ton of the last couple of years was tight end and then 2 or 3 receivers. And a lot of times it'd be 3 receivers with number 3 being like a wing and he'd motion in, motion across. We saw like that and the empty looks that we saw the last 2-3 weeks of the season were, a lot of the primary stuff we saw. But again, attached to the same run game that you're talking about.
Yeah.
The old school, like jet sweep, buck sweep, counter, triple option. It's fun. I'll tell you what, it's fun to prepare for stuff like that. It's fun to have the kids feel fast, feel confident defending whatever's in front of them. And I think the 4-2-5 allows that.
Yeah, I would say God bless you, defensive guys, because I will never go back to defensive side of the ball ever. Because I think that's where I started losing my hair the first time, being I was young offense. I got forced to be on defense for 2 years. I said never again will I go back and do defense, even though I had to coach defensive line this year for the first 4 weeks of the season. So I got to get my roots back. But I was like, oof, you guys game planning offenses. No, thank you. I'm glad you still have a full head of hair because mine would have been gone long ago if I was a defensive guy. I was going to say, like, because I think you said, did you play linebacker or D line in college? I cannot remember.
I played defensive line.
So do you coach D line or do you do linebackers or safeties? Or
I coached the linebackers.
Do you ever miss doing D line? Because when I coached it, I was like, I kind of miss this. I'm O line, but I kind of miss this. Kind of miss the D line.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's fun to jump in and just show them a little of the nuances that from playing the position, a couple little things. But our D-line coach is great. My father helps out with the D-line. So I've got 2 really good defensive line coaches with me, and I love coaching the linebackers. I've had some really good players the last couple of years. Like I said, we had a kid who was a 2-year all-conference kid, Bo Richter, my first year, who plays at the University of Air Force. So we've had some talent at that position. It's been fun. I have a great defensive staff. I'm really, really lucky to have the guys I have that are very knowledgeable on their end and kind of just overall defense. That's the thing that I've really noticed is like we're all pretty smart football coaches across the entire concept. And Coach Drendel being a defensive coordinator, we've got some really smart football coaches, guys that are experienced. It's funny because like my defensive coaching staff, I've got me, our linebackers, and our head strength, who's also our head strength coach. We're about the same age. We teach B together, and our D-line coach, primary D-line coach, he's the same age as us. And then we've got our DB's coach who's been coaching for a long time at Naperville North. And then we've got my father and another gentleman who's a retired FBI agent coaching our DB. So there's like a big range of ages in the group. But yeah, I mean, super lucky to have a good staff and good guys that I coach with, along with Coach Drendel. Obviously, is our head coach. He's awesome.
Since I haven't talked to you during COVID and we've gone through a couple seasons, was there anything during COVID or that year specifically that you learned or took from that you're now using towards maybe forever from now? I know for me, it was like, be simple. It was not be so old school coach. Like I'm always yelling, like I had to take a step back and say, I don't have to do this all the time, or like something stupid like that. But like, was there anything specific from that time? Because I got to talk to you during track, but that was about track. I didn't get to ask like What was there anything specific maybe you learned during that time, like I will use this going forward?
Well, I think just the natural progression of life. When we talked during that COVID time, I might have had a 2 or 3 month old son at home. So I was just a brand new dad then. And now I've got a 2.5, almost 3 year old and a 5 month at home. So, growing up from a newer dad to a dad that's got two boys at home that, you look at them and like, that's how I feel about our kids too, that we coach. Like, these are our kids, these are somebody else's kids, and just that natural evolution of how you work with kids. I think there's a growing part of that takes place when you have kids, and that I've been through that. At least I feel that way. That's what's definitely grown with me. And you just don't take anything for granted working with our kids, especially regardless of talent, ability, regardless of wins, anything like that. Like, we've got great kids at Naperville North that love our school, that love our community, and super thankful for them. Like I said, we did a winter youth skills camp this tonight actually, and we had 140 kids there from third to eighth grade, and we had probably 8 coaches there, something like that, and then we had, I want to say, 15 to 20 of our players that came out to help that and work with our kids. And that starts again with our head coach on what he's been able to do and make it special for those kids. And we try to implement that and treat our kids like that. So I mean, I think that's the main thing that I took from COVID as far as relationship wise and working with kids. Obviously, you learn and you grow from your scheme and you try to implement new stuff, but just being able to teach kids and work with kids in a different light. Um, Once you have your own children, definitely makes an impact. At least it has for me. And that whole time that we went through like that, just appreciating everything you got always with your kids in your school.
Yeah. And then I think I don't know about you, there's a part of our minds that were like, do I need to go back and coach? Look at all this extra time that I have. But then, like you said, then it was like, nah, you got to be like, you had your kids, but then all the kids we coach are our kids too. So it's like, you had to keep going. Cause I knew coaches that did that. They're like, I could be at home. So they stayed
Huh.
home. They were done. There's days I have that though when I coach all three. So I'm like, wait a minute, I could be home right now. I could be home, not
Huh.
out in the snow or doing that stuff. Um, Now this
My
might be,
goal, my goal in life is to like be my son's head football coach someday. So,
oh yeah,
um, that's what it's all about someday, being that way. So hopefully, I always tell my wife, like, a lot of guys have careers that are based on making the most money, making the biggest houses. My careers, I'm trying to be my kids' coach someday and help them reach all their goals as far as their next future. So um, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky, very blessed to be with great guys and supportive wife. That's a part of it. I mean, my wife is amazing with helping with our family during the season. She comes to all of our games. So my youngest son was born the Monday we started football
hmm
this past season. And so he came to his first Naperville North game when he was like 13 days old, something like that. Thankfully, the weather was nice.
right.
And she lugged the 2 kids there, and it's a family thing. Like, she's super supportive. I think she was an athletic trainer at University of Iowa for their offensive line for 4 years. So
Oh
it
wow,
kind of, yeah, she was there when like Kittle and James Daniels and all of those guys are there. She's like friends with them, which is kind of cool. But she gets it, and she loves Coach Kirk Ferentz, and she loves football. So very lucky to have a supportive wife at home. I think that's critical for coaches, definitely.
yeah. I'll be married next September.
I
So
was gonna ask. I knew you're engaged, right?
yeah, yeah. And it's a fall wedding. Don't that was an argument I wasn't going to win. So that's okay. Uh,
Yes, yes, it is.
uh, but it's one day away from football, so it's okay. But yes, but no, I get because like I said, I do all three, and I'm lucky I can do all three for now. One of them will go eventually, but uh, we'll get there. Um, no, that's awesome because our athletic trainer played college soccer, so the best is when our kids complain, and the athletic she goes, "Shut up and just suck it up." It's the
She
best.
gets it.
Yeah, she's like, the best is when a kid twists his ankle and she's pulling on it, and then he pulls back, and she goes, "Stop being a baby," and pulls the ankle back. Like, you're quit being a baby. And like, who is this? I was like, she played college sports. Like, just stop. It's okay. No, that's an awesome response. Like I said, I don't have kids, so I don't know. But one day I'll know what that feels like. Um, so this might be a dumb question. Do you work with your strength program too? I think you might have said that.
I
Um,
do. I do. So, in our PE wellness staff at Naperville North, our head strength coach is our assistant linebackers coach with me. Um, we're kind of like two peas in a pod, if I had to be honest. Like, we teach PE together. We're always together. I teach in the weight room. I taught 4 classes this past semester. He teaches 7 of them. We're super tight. So yeah, I'm super involved with our strength program, and he does an unbelievable job. If there's a guy who's super passionate about weight training and providing the best for our kids with that aspect and all phases of it, and I think that that's where he really stands out, is that he's always looking to find the best thing and any aspect of strength and performance. We call it strength and performance, strength and conditioning that you can imagine. So Kevin, he's another guy. If you ever want to get another guy to talk strictly that stuff, um, he's really, really, really good. And our program has been recognized by the National Strength and Conditioning Coaches
mhm.
Association as one of the programs of excellence. So he's done an awesome job, and he kind of built that program up. So yeah, I do a ton of it. I teach our kids in it, and in the summer, I'm on the field with. Actually, the way we set up our summer training is we have speed and lifting with all sports. And I mean, it molds into primarily football in the morning, but
Mhm.
I'm on the field, from 7 to noon, speed training every single athlete that enrolls in any sport at our school. And he's working in the weight room with every single athlete. And that's kind of how our weight room operates during the school year too. So we're heavily involved in our student population with that aspect, not just our football team.
Yeah, because that was what I was going to ask. A guy that was coaching at AT, he's now at West Chicago. I think he might have went and talked to you guys, Coach Joe Jasinski. He like came over because I think he was looking at. I don't remember. So that's what I was going to ask you guys, like how it works in schools, because I'm seeing high schools now, like you said. I think at York even they have that wellness program where it's like varsity athletes have it during school. So that's what I was going to ask you guys. I think I remember you guys were recognized. So that's why I was going to ask, like, is it varsity athletes during the school day for everybody? How you guys set it up, and then basing off of their in season, off season workouts and how that works. I think that's what you
Yeah,
guys did.
yeah. So our kids, we have different types of obviously student athletes. We have some kids that aren't athletes in the class. Like we said, we actually had an overflow of sections this past semester where we had 3 periods where there was two teachers in the weight room, team teaching the course,
Wow.
and it was like max. It was right around 70 kids in there.
Oh wow.
Of the 8 periods, yeah. So it was. I mean, we have a lot of kids enrolled
Yeah.
in it right now. Um, and we obviously we use an application called Platform that allows us to put different programs in different kids hands, and based on the calendar, like, so let's take a football player. His platform profile operates under the group of football, which is attached to a calendar which has different programs in it. So the in-season training has a time of the year, and then that breaks off in the off season, and then that breaks off in the summer, and that allows us to have that flexibility. And then we obviously have somebody who might not be a student, might not be an athlete in the class. They're enrolled in your classroom group that have access to different programs and stuff like that. So yeah, we're reaching a lot of the student body with what we're doing. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Because some schools look to it to have like a that during school with the varsity athletes, then like you don't stay late after school practice lifting. It like saves time after practice. That's a lot of way schools have been selling it. You
Yes.
know, is to like if you're practicing done a practice at 5:45, then you got to stay another half hour to lift. Well, if you do it during school, you don't have to stay. That's kind of the way it was being sold. Um, are you seeing more high schools start to transition to some of this stuff? Because I know you guys might have been one of the first around the area that's been big. There's some school up north. They literally just hired a strength coach on a teacher's salary, and I can't remember what high school. It's a suburb, and I can't remember.
I know that, like, I'm sorry, I don't know the gentleman's name, but he was the head coach at Bradley Bourbonnais, and
Yes,
now he's the head coach at HF.
yes,
And I'm sorry, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's one of the top dogs in Illinois with it. And I don't know. Obviously, I just follow his Twitter content, and I know that that's his primary background, is strength and conditioning
right.
coach. I think that with physical education, everybody knows it's important. Like it's a critical part of students' days, not just athletes. And I think that with strength and performance, you're getting something that has some good relativity for wellness and confidence and fitness and health and something that they can do in the future. And it gives value to training and working out and being in shape and enjoying yourself, finding yourself. A lot of times too, we get kids that have never been in a weight room. So they get out of that comfort level of they learn to get comfortable in a setting that
Mhm.
promotes health and wellness, I think, which is huge. So, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, it's a great thing for kids. It's a great thing for student athletes, non-athletes. It's a great thing for everybody in the building.
Um, I'm going to switch more to football real quick with the strength stuff. For you guys, or not even for you guys, maybe just you personally, the speed-based training stuff's become huge. That stuff. Are you guys starting to see yourself transition more into that type of stuff?
January 18th, first
Yeah,
practice.
yep, yep.
Definitely.
Well, especially for track, for you because you're also because you're the head track coach too as well. So like Tony Holler stuff from Plainfield North, like is that stuff kind of over the years started to filter in maybe your guys' programs or and it's strange because the first time I saw it, I said, "What do you mean there's no one rep max? What do you mean it doesn't matter like this?" Like seeing the stuff, like my friend does it. He is all into it down in Central Illinois. Steve, if you saw one of our track practices, you think we were the laziest people you ever saw. And I said, why? Oh, because we'll run, and then we sit for 5 or 10 minutes and let the body, reset. So you'd think we were the laziest people you ever saw. Um, so for you guys, are you seeing that more transition to your guys' programs, researching it and using that type of stuff? Because it's about speed now. Everything's about speed now.
Definitely. I mean, Coach Holler and I are actually pretty close. We know each other pretty well. Um, I'd say that we share a lot of things in common, but the most thing that we share in common is our philosophy of how we should treat and coach our student athletes
Uh-huh.
where, when they're with us, they're having fun and they're working hard. We don't do a lot. We do a lot of the same stuff. I've learned so much from him. It's incredible.
Mhm.
But we obviously do things differently at Naperville North than he does at Plainfield North. And but our philosophical approach to student athletes is definitely very common. And I really appreciate everything he's done for the sport of track and field. He's awesome. But yeah, I mean, when you look at speed, it's just like looking at a strength calendar. There's different times of the season you're trying to accomplish different things in
Mhm.
the realm of speed. Um, right? Like for instance, right now we are in a phase right now where we should be running fast, not a ton of reps. We're building that bounciness, that springiness. We're not conditioning based anything right now. There, there's no point. Like you don't need that.
Mhm.
There's different times of the year we're trying to build that. Same thing with going into the summer when you're getting into the season. Same thing when you're when you're in the summer with somebody who's not going into a season. That's a baseball kid that you're speed training them in the summer, who they're in their off season. So programming is key and critical, and just identifying what you're trying to get to. But a lot of the stuff Coach Holler does, we do. We time everything, we post everything. Our team website has all of our records on it. Guys know when they're PRing. It's something we highlight every single meet in front of our whole program. Every time somebody gets a PR, it could be our slowest kid ran his fastest race ever. He's going to get to stand up and say his name and get a pin from our team, our captain. So, philosophically, very similar to Tony and how we approach and coach our athletes and what we want them to enjoy and be a part of. And he's done such great stuff with, Feed the Cats, his X Factor workouts, a lot of his exercises he does. Yeah, he's an unbelievable coach. I'm thankful that I've gotten to know him a little bit on a personal level as far as he coached a couple of guys I played with at Southern Illinois. So we've talked and shared
Mhm.
stories a little bit.
Him and Chris Corfus. That's another guy. He's been around. He was at York for a little bit, I think. Because our head coach at AT worked at York, and he was like, "Yeah, this guy named Chris Corfus was the track coach, or sorry, a track coach." And because I bring up the speed based training all the time, because that was my off season this year, was to learn more about that stuff. Because I'm stupid. I'm real stupid when it comes to all that stuff because I'm the guy that's like, just suck it up and lift it, or just suck it up and run. Like that's my guy. That's my mentality. That's why I was a throwers coach. I didn't have to worry about running. Or baseball, like just hit the ball, or O line, like
Big guys got to run fast too, fast and explosive. Just keep it
yeah.
short though. They don't like to run far. Keep it short, keep it fast.
Well, that's what I tell our kids. Like if they do something, they're like, Coach, I'll just outrun you. And I'm like, I'm quick in a 12-yard distance, 12 yards. Give me 12 yards and I'm good. Outside of that, it's no good. I'm not running that no more. I'm not running 40s anymore. I'm not doing that. No, when I was younger, that's how I was. The older I've gotten, the more I'm like, it's more science based. It's more how you move your hips. It's more how you move your, like, I've learned that stuff. But that's my next venture is learning a lot of that feed the cat stuff and what everybody's kind of feeding into there. Tony Holler's on my list to reach out to next because I'm like, why just not go to the source? Why not just go to the guy himself? He's 12
He's
minutes.
he's incredible. He's awesome.
And he's 12 minutes down the street or 15 minutes down the street because so right down the street from Naperville North. So it's like Plainfield's right there. It's all
Yes.
good. We'll wrap it up because I know it's late. You got kids. You're relaxing on your break. The AirPods are working great, Coach. Just so you know, they're working pretty good. We can hear you pretty well.
Thank you.
If you had to be an offensive coach, what offense would you run?
Oh man, I think about that often, and you know, when I was at Wheaton South, where I grew up, where I played, the thing that Coach Thorne during those '90s and then Coach Mulich, they were so good at adapting to what they were good at, and I guess that's the answer I stand by. Was if I could coach any offense, it would be what fits my players best. Obviously, trying to run the ball, I'd build from you got to build your line, and it's harder to do nowadays than ever with kids. Finding those big guys. Um, Such a tough question. I definitely have a tight end on the field. I definitely have, I'd say, minimum 11 personnel, 75% of the time. And if you had a tight end who's flexible enough to do different things in those spread formations, and then you have a slot who can be incorporated into some of the different offense. I mean, if you got a good 11 personnel, you can pretty much do anything you want with it. So that's what I try to operate on mostly if I could.
And it's okay to change. When I first got into coaching, we ran the power I option, 3 running backs, and that's all I knew. Spread was voodoo. Like, don't even look at spread. Don't even know anything about it. Then I became spread, and I wanted to be an air raid, throw it around. I want to be spread, RPO, all that stuff. Now I'm looking at it going, maybe this gun T, wing T stuff looks pretty good. Like, it's okay to change. It's okay.
Coach Kenny Simpson's offense.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. He does some good stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah, and then I talked to a coach. He's in North Carolina, I think. He's an offensive coordinator, and he calls his the wing raid because his run game is all wing T. Then he took like 4 or 5 air raid passes, and that's all they do. So he calls it the wing raid. And he was gonna be like the next Kenny Simpson, and then I think he got too busy to like keep doing it. But I talked to him for like 2 hours about it one time, like because how do you incorporate all that? How do you have practice time for it because of how it works? But yeah, Kenny Simpson, that's his. I have his books. Like that's why I'm like, maybe I'm not a spread guy anymore. Maybe I have to go back to pistol under center stuff. But football comes full circle. Maybe that's where we have to go back to. I have no idea. But
absolutely sure does.
I'm in agreement. We had a 6'3" tight end, 220 pounds at AT. So he was the perfect tight end that you're talking about. He tore his ACL though going to his junior year last year. So we got him as a senior. So that was technically his junior year. And just, I'm with you. 11 personnel, you can do anything. Absolutely anything you want to do. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. I had you on here for a while. I know you got a family, kids, probably need some sleep. It is break time. We need sleep around here. But I appreciate you coming on here again. Good luck this track season because I know that's your next sport coming up. Good luck with track season. We'll have to try to find each other at a clinic or something and talk some ball more. You'll have to teach me some things you guys do in Naperville North because I still like to learn defense and stuff. But I appreciate you coming back on here.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it. Good luck on basketball and then into baseball.
I need all the luck I can get and all the caffeine I can get to get through it.
Heck yeah.
Guys, follow Coach. His Twitter will be in the bio, all that good stuff. Go follow him. It's good stuff in Naperville North. They're good at what they do. That's why they're one of the powerhouses in Illinois, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.